Hello, good evening and welcome to Camnet TV News. To present, my name is Jeffrey Siambo. Top stories in the news: ZESCO calls for cost-reflective tariffs amid increased power outages. President HH surrenders the power to appoint police commissioners. Government tasked to account for carbon tax. In international news, at least 91 people have died and several injured after a fuel tanker blast in Sierra Leone capital. And in sports news, over 60 qualified referees in Eastern Province to benefit from the new referee jerseys.
Africa is rising to a new dawn of integrity and accountability. Are you tired of being swindled or buying fake or illegal properties? Would you like to sell or buy genuine property? Would you like to list your property on both local and international market? Don't waste your time. Call the professionals, the SGK Properties, on +260 762 166 018. SGK Properties. Your business assurance is our priority.
Hello once again, another news in detail. Pressure from members of the public has continued to mount on the national power utility company ZESCO following the abrupt system failure experienced countrywide, which lasted for about 6 hours. In an exclusive interview with Camnet TV, ZESCO Corporate Affairs Manager Dr. John Kunda reiterated the need to harmonize the local power cost to ensure the company's output efficiency. Meanwhile, energy expert Johnson Chikwanda has appealed to the power utility company to be more proactive to avoid future power outages. We have more in the following report.
ZESCO Limited, vertically integrated electricity utility company with the core responsibility of providing both its products and services to the Zambian people at an affordable yet efficient output. With a vision to be the hub for electricity trading in the region by 2025, the company has over the 2 decades faced a number of challenges ranging from load shedding to customer connectivity backlog. In a space of the previous 2 months, the nation has experienced blackouts, leaving them wonder what could be the major problem, regardless efforts by the company's frequent explanations. It seems that issues still keep piling up from a customer perspective.
Ni vintu vambiri futi vanhu kumangala venangu vasunga kuma mafriji vanagurira tu mabudget yavo mandiyo so kapeza maraiti yaenda for so long vicha vintu nobwino vizaona apa zakara 2 years zisheso che so fulika wache fast pass wataeleko zero vintu katwa kambapo ife government wamene so government ndipete vantu songa twakamba tizi ntambo children fast pass Africa watamanga wabwera wasikontorora manga vana kontorora po hii hapa.
Concerning a recent nearly countrywide blackout, the company, through its public relations officer, Hazel Zulu, has attributed it to the disturbance of the external Zambian interconnected power system. The biggest question still remains, what is the major problem? This journalist interviews Dr. John Kunda, ZESCO Corporate Affairs Manager, who attempts to address this question within the context and highlights a number of pertinent issues that needs attention to ensure efficiency going forward.
So we have enough power that is being generated to meet the need of the country. So we don't have a problem in terms of the capacity to meet the demand. The demand for this country is 2,410 megawatts.
Sure.
At peak period. That's what we need as a country. And we are producing in excess of that demand, right? So we have enough power. But we have challenges in terms of outages that result from a number of factors. So we can run through the factors. Number one, there are scheduled maintenance works, especially in Lusaka, where we have invested over $260 million to upgrade the infrastructure because Lusaka has been growing, but the infrastructure is old and dilapidated. So we need to upgrade that infrastructure. Is what happened on Wednesday around 14 hours when we had adverse weather conditions, a storm. You asked me a very important question. Don't we foresee that it's going to be rainy season? We foresee that during the rainy season, we are likely to experience challenges in some cases. But when it's exponential, sometimes you may not plan for acts of God. You know, people's houses were blown off. The rooftops were, blown off completely. Billboards were uprooted in a number of places. These are the ones that are botted with concrete. Trees were uprooted and fell on our lines. And they are the ones that disturbed the entire system and network.
Dr. Kunda has also noted the need to harmonize the gap between the cost and the revenue of the company if efficiency is to be attained.
Not a situation where you are asking me as ZESCO Limited to go and buy from Zafico for a customer. The customer only pays 7 times less the price of what Zafico is selling me for. And you expect me to survive. And then you tell me, ZESCO Benzeru, no, these guys are just cadres, Benzeru. I'm telling you that you have my hands tied. Give me a fair playing field. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for more. Even if I'm a public utility company, I need to give you an efficient service. The only way I can give you an efficient service if you are giving me what it takes me to service you.
Meanwhile, energy expert Johnston Chikwanda has appealed to the power utility company to be more proactive to avoid future power outage.
Locations without power, and we don't know where the instability is coming from, but like I said, this is very technical. I believe that the team there will get to the bottom of the matter and to ensure that the integrity of the system will continue to improve upon the integrity of the system.
With the advent of the rain season that is characterized with such distractions, one could only hope for immediate interventions to avoid abrupt power cut. Alex Shimba, Camnet News in Lusaka.
An environmental activist has challenged the government to demonstrate how carbon tax has been utilized since it was initiated in the 2006 national budget. A carbon tax emission is an environmental tax on emissions of carbon dioxide whose purpose is to protect the environment by penalizing emissions of carbon dioxide which may cause global warming. Robert Chimambo is urging the government to use resources generated from carbon tax to address environmental issues as well as respond to effects of climate change. More in this report.
The carbon tax was introduced in 2006 and the Zambia Revenue Authority had been collecting the tax only from border points when vehicles are imported into Zambia or on transit, but the authority was not following up on the vehicles to pay the annual tax. The government later decided that the Road Transport and Safety Agency, RTSA, starts collecting the tax from all inland vehicles, but successive governments have not stated projects being implemented using the tax, and this prompts concern from motorists.
I do own a car, petrol engine, and I'm justifying why the carbon tax is fine. So basically looking at how, regardless of whether you have a diesel or petrol engine, your cars are still emitting some form of carbon dioxide that affects our environment. And now that we're living in a time where climate change is a big issue and something that's is being felt by everyone, regardless of where you are in the world. So I feel like it's important to protect our environment. But in terms of what the tax or what they use the money for is generally what I would not understand.
According to the Auditor General's report for the year 2020, carbon emission surtax collected by RTSA stood at 51,572,872 kwacha. Grace Mutonga, the Civic Forum on Housing and Habitat Executive Director, says people need to be informed on how the carbon tax is being utilized and strengthen locally driven initiatives towards environmental sustainability.
Essentially, these funds are actually supposed to be plowed back into the economy. One, people need to be sensitized. We need the people that are into positions of authority. So who's regulating the movement of vehicles on the roads? Why don't they make sure that those that have got high carbon emissions, they're either parked or people are made to work on their vehicles? One thing is sorted. We have RTSA. We have got the road traffic section from the Zambia police as well. Then when it comes to issues of accountability, I think it's high time that as a country, for once, we became accountable for the resources. If people are paying carbon tax, can we know how this money is actually being utilized? Once people are able to account, people will not be questioning them, because the effects of climate change are actually very, very real.
Environmentalist Robert Chimambo calls on the New Dawn government to demonstrate how it will implement projects to conserve the environment using the carbon tax.
We as Zambian civil society, we came up with the idea of carbon tax. These end-of-life cars from Japan, they are emitting greenhouse gases. We said, let's tax that. That money which we get, and it's huge, we then, each of these registration that I put up, environment, it has got an environmental fund, it's empty. The Forest Act, it's empty. The Water Act, it's empty. Because then you want the donors to do it. No. That is where, when we collect that carbon tax, which is huge, we then put it in these funds to manage forests, to manage water, to manage town and country planning, all these climate change related risk reduction. Looking at how resources are being raised under the carbon tax, it is possible for Zambia to make a greater impact in responding to climate change. Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
Government has directed the Lusaka City Council and the Lusaka Water and Sanitation Company to demolish all structures built on water distribution points to avoid the contamination and disruption of water in the city. During an inspection of Stewart Park Water Center, Minister of Water Development and Sanitation Mike Mposha has noted the encroachment on water installations has affected the supply and distribution network, hence the need to control the situation. Mr. Mposha has, to this effect, warned that government would not tolerate any such illegalities from few members at the expense of the majority. More in the following report.
While he inspected the Stewart Park Water Distribution Center in State House area and Munali constituency, Minister of Water Development and Sanitation Mike Mposha has noted the encroachment on water installations, saying it has affected the supply and distribution network.
So the intake or the capacity to drain all that water has been reduced because people have been crunched on that. So we need to ensure that as the Lusaka City Council, and I'm happy that finally the directors, some of the officials have joined us, we must curtail these illegalities. You know, where we know that people are building on the drainages which are supposed to save the communities, let's move in very quickly. If it means demolishing, let's demolish. For me, it's better we injure one or two people and you know, save the bigger community. But if we are going to allow the selfishness of 2, 3, 4 individuals to injure the bigger population, then I think something is amiss. So as we go around, let's all of us appreciate these challenges so that, you know, we can serve our people better. So we have a huge challenge, Lusaka City Council, so let's pick these lessons and see how we can serve the people better.
Hence the need to control the situation. He has since directed the Lusaka City Council and the Lusaka Water and Sanitation Company to demolish all structures built on water distribution points. Meanwhile, the water utility company has disclosed its plans to expand its water supply in both Lusaka and Chongwe districts.
That was a stopgap measure. It's not meeting the demand. So going forward, we actually segmented Chongwe into two. There's an area which receives water from an overhead tank which is near Chongwe Secondary School, and the other tank is in the town center itself, in Chongwe. So as we are filling, we can start filling the secondary school in the evening, so that morning we supply and continue filling during the day. Then the following evening we have to go to the other side. Yeah, so the boundary there, I think it's the road. So we'll be alternating until the situation improves. Long term, Chongwe may have to benefit from the fuel as we plan.
Alex Shimba, Camnet News in Lusaka.
Lusaka Central Member of Parliament Mulambo Haimbe has told Camnet TV that resolving water and sanitation issues are among priority areas in his constituency. Mr. Haimbe says there is a need to ensure inclusive access to clean drinking water in Bawleni compound, which he says has been a challenge for a long time. The parliamentarian also points out that there is limited access to public toilets in the Central Business District, adding that there is a need to build more to meet the growing population.
That is a big issue for Lusaka Central. We all know that, for example, in Bawleni we have serious challenges with water, and there are serious plans that we had during the campaign. Those will come to fruition because of the commitment that has been given by this government to water and sanitation. Other areas, of course, there was talk about the need for clean toilets. Look at the Central Business District. People are trading in there without having proper facilities. That for me is exciting as Lusaka Central MP, because then it means that the plans that we have put in place prior to the election can now be a thing that can be realized, and so that is exciting. That is the message that I have to them. I will have to lobby and make sure that I do my part to bring those plans into action.
President Hakainde Hichilema has returned back home from Glasgow, Scotland, where he had gone to attend the Climate Change Summit. Speaking to journalists upon arrival at Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, President Hichilema says climate change is real and needs global effort to fight, describing the summit as fruitful. Meanwhile, President Hakainde Hichilema has revealed that he will not appoint police commissioners, but will be promoted by their superiors, as has been in the past until recently. The head of state has meanwhile asked members of the public to be calm over their appointments, which some people say have delayed looking at the time he has been in power. The appointments include permanent secretaries at permanent secretary level and other bodies and various public institutions.
What is been obtaining this country was divided in the last 10 years. Cabinet came from only 4 provinces. 95% of the cabinet came from 4 provinces. Today, the cabinet comes from all the 10 provinces. We should be proud of that. Whoever is motivated to ask the question should be proud of it. That's number one. Number two, there will be no police commissioners appointed by the president. Including Kibida. The police commissioner will be promoted, appointed by the police command and the police service command. We want to reduce the direct number of presidential appointments in the commission. That was an anomaly, which was not normal, but we already believed it was normal. This was only altered the 2 years ago. Otherwise, police commissioners were appointed by the police command, promoted together with the police officers. That's the way we were doing. So the issue of other remaining appointments, time must be managed. 2 months, 11 days or so in office. You manage your time. You utilize your time properly. Otherwise, you'll be, the other government.
A 26-year-old woman of Copperbelt who recently graduated from the ZESCO Youth Skills Training Center says she wants to go back to school and complete her secondary education. Rita Banda, a former street kid, explains that despite having obtained a certificate in agriculture, her desire is to complete her secondary education and later further her studies. Meanwhile, the grade 12 dropout says she will use the skills she acquired during the training to teach other street teens. More in this report.
Rita Banda, a 26-year-old woman from the Copperbelt province, has been living with HIV since she was a child. In an exclusive interview with Camnet, the ZNS Kitwe Youth Skills Training Center graduate shared her gratitude for having acquired a certificate in agriculture, but also expressed a desire to go back to secondary school and complete her education. Rita narrates that when she was sent to ZNAs for a training, she was a delinquent who lived as a street child. She confides that at the age of 10, she fell into bad influence of friends who persuaded her that she would make money by begging on the streets.
Mom was trying all her best to make me happy, but I was looking at the kind of life my friends lived. And I had friends who were coming from the streets and they would say, "Muntu wanzipa streets tapabo kupia. Kwali befuma sugar daddy sunga kukuchitla fiance. Not to uchushugule pitamo." So the things that I never used to see happening at home, and I used to see them happening in the streets, are what made me used to go on the streets.
The 26-year-old had tragically lost a parent at a very young age, and by the time Rita was 12, she had started taking drugs and engaging in other illicit activities.
I lost my parents at a tender age, so life became full of ups and downs for me, and I was raised by different kinds of people. So when I lost my mom's older sister, who actually raised me, from the time my biological parents died, she died in 2010, that's when life just became something else for me. It was really tough. I got into drugs, which apparently I used to do even before, but it just got worse, simply because I thought I had no solution to my problems. Life on the streets, it's bad and good times. The times when you feel good there, the times when you just live in regret. I battled with how I was going to move on with life, how I was going to make a change in my life.
A grade 12 dropout, Rita says that despite having acquired skills in agriculture, she was nevertheless requesting the government to sponsor her back into school so that she would achieve a dream of becoming a medical doctor.
Despite everything they're doing for me, I'm grateful. But I would love to have a chance to at least be taken back to school, right, grade 12, and achieve my future dreams. Because I've always wanted to do something to do with health.
Equipped with the knowledge, Rita says she will reach out to needy children by educating them about the dangers of drugs and begging on the streets.
It's a survival skill. Even with the little that I can do anything, I can be able to survive on my own. I wouldn't go back on the streets because this knowledge was not just imparted in me for me myself, but for many of the youth out there. There are those people who have been through my situation, who are still going through what I went through, and are saying there's no tomorrow. So for me, it's a life-changing.
For Camnet TV News, Miriam Kaimba.
Human Street Health Aid Zambia Director Edgar Silwemba has noted that the majority of secondary school graduates in rural areas lack financial capacity to enroll in colleges or universities, hence depending on the government for such opportunities. In an interview with Camnet TV, Mr. Silwemba says achieving Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which assures equal access for both women and men to affordable and quality tertiary education, requires concerted efforts from various stakeholders. Mr. Silwemba has, in this regard, through his organization, offered 600 scholarships to Chembe district pupils who have completed their secondary education. He says the scholarships are aimed at helping both girls and boys to enroll in tertiary education and to study their desired careers. Meanwhile, Mr. Silwemba has also indicated that among the 600 scholarship beneficiaries are 3 girls who were retrieved from early marriages and decided to go back to school.
Rural Education School Support Initiative. We are trying to empower both boys and girls from rural communities by giving them scholarships to study in tertiary institutions within Zambia. You understand that most of the people in rural communities don't have the financial muscle to pay for university or college education. So we've extended this scholarship program to also girls who actually fell pregnant and managed to go back to school but don't have enough support to go back to university. Among the beneficiaries, we have about 3 girls who actually want to study medicine, and one of them actually had applied earlier on to Copperbelt University before falling pregnant. And we're happy that she stands a chance to go back to school now after this scholarship program. We hope that we could actually impact more girls in rural communities who don't have this opportunity to go to school. And it is hoped that we could extend this scholarship program to other parts of the district and other parts of rural Zambia, so that we give and accord an opportunity each person to get out of poverty through education. We understand that education is the biggest equalizer for people coming from middle or lower class economies or incomes.
You're watching Camnet TV and not just another channel. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
Team, the trajectory of the business looks very positive, and it looks like we'll be able to launch the...
She has so much data.
Mom?
Yes, baby?
It says here
Global warming and climate change is caused by the pollution from careless activities of human beings.
Wow!
Son, do you know I can turn my phone into a TV remote?
How's that possible?
It's so easy. Check this out.
Be smart, be fast with mega data from Zamtel. Get your 15 GB mobile data for only 100 kwacha, 30 GB mobile data for only 200 kwacha, and your 70 GB LTE data bundle with free Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Visit our Facebook page, website, or service centers countrywide for more information. Zamtel, your digital lifestyle partner.
This is the Rusitu Irrigation Project. It's a government project funded by the World Bank through IDSP.
The project involved laying over 18 kilometers worth of interlinked water pipes that will supply water to the 280 hectares land for small-scale and commercial farmers in Rusitu of Chirundu district. We worked on 35 kilometers of the road network and also constructed 159 concrete water hydrants of different sizes in all 3 tiers. The state-of-the-art water pumping station at the banks of the Zambezi is fitted with 9 water pumps, a dedicated concrete reservoir, a 500 kV automated standby generator, a fully automated pump switching system that is interlinked with a second reservoir of 27,000 cubic liters capacity, which is fitted with 7 water pumps, a standby generator, and floater tanks for that extra water pressure on the irrigation lines. Savenda Construction is grateful to the Zambian government and the World Bank for giving us the opportunity to be part of the history of Rusitu, as the project will benefit over 282 households once completed, and is just one of the many that Savenda Construction has embarked on, owing to its track record and capacity to deliver as per requirement. Savenda, save nations, develop Africa.
Africa is rising to a new dawn of integrity and accountability. Are you tired of being swindled or buying fake or illegal properties? Would you like to sell or buy genuine property? Would you like to list your property on both local and international market? Don't waste your time. Call the professionals, the SGK Properties, on +260 762 166 018. SGK Properties. Your business assurance is our priority.
Welcome back. We'll continue with the news. Concerned Citizen for Justice and Human Rights Director Richard Nkua is concerned at what he terms as increased forced eviction of ordinary Zambians from their land in Shibuyunji district of Central Province. Mr. Nkua, who was reacting to a case the organization is handling of a 58-year-old man, Kelvin Chongo, whose land has been grabbed by a named civil servant who works under the Ministry of Finance, has described as unfortunate the taking advantage of poor people, especially those who are differently abled. Meanwhile, Mr. Chongo says he has lived on his land for the past 42 years, wondering where the new owner has come from with his knowledge. Mr. Chongo is now calling on government intervention into this matter.
Over the years, incidents of land grabbing by unscrupulous individuals affiliated with some political parties have continued to dominate news headlines. Quite recently, Kelvin Chongo, a resident of Shibuyunji district in Central Province, like many other victims, reported a case in which a piece of land on which he had lived for the past 42 years was illegally grabbed from him and sold to a named civil servant who works for the Ministry of Finance in Lusaka. The victim, who is 58 years old and differently abled, has since reported the matter to a non-government organization called Concerned Citizen for Justice and Human Rights Organization in the hope of receiving assistance.
He said, Vandibu Hemebo, Ega try complaint where we never got in without Vandibu. That's Manabo to Tanda.
Mr. Chongo is now seeking government intervention to help him recover his land. In an exclusive interview with this reporter, Mr. Chongo explained that despite addressing his case to his chief, nothing had been done.
Munda wangu kama laiti leti batali akupanga ma fish ponds munda mundali vita kuti mundali kulima. So please lomba mambo wa human rights amundigwashe.
Meanwhile, the organization director Richard Nkua, to whom the victim took the land grabbing case for possible remedy, has since expressed concern over how the issue of land grabbing in Shubuyunji district have become rampant.
We are very much disturbed over the issue of land grabbing, which has come rampant. Some of the people are being targeted are overaged people, disabled people. We are appealing to the Human Rights Commission. We are also appealing to the government to come on board and help these victims.
For Camnet TV News, Miriam Kaimba.
Police have apprehended and detained Charles Maziopa, aged 57, a male nurse of Lundazi District Hospital, in connection with the alleged murder of Christopher Theo, aged 30, of Diwa Compound in Lundazi, Eastern Province. Zambia Police spokesperson Ray Hamonga says the deceased was admitted in hospital between the 25th of October 2021 and the 2nd November 2021 when the accused slapped the deceased twice and later he started bleeding through his nostrils and died after 4 hours. The matter was reported by the mother to the deceased, Selina Banda, aged 57. The police spokesperson says arrangements are being made for exhumation by the state pathologists as the relatives had buried without a postmortem being conducted. The Zambia National Public Health Institute, ZNPHI, has dispelled myths suggesting vaccines are not ideal for pregnant women and may cause infertility in both men and women. ZNPHI infectious disease expert Dr. Paul Zulu says research has proven that pregnant and breastfeeding mothers can get vaccinated without any complication. Speaking during a media science cafe in Lusaka Saturday, Dr. Zulu adds that issues of vaccines causing infertility amounts to the misinformation surrounding the COVID-19. He explains that ever since Zambia started vaccination program, the only common side effects have been recorded of one having a headache and a bit of pain on the vaccinated arm, which goes away after a short time, a situation he described as normal.
Number one, people say vaccines cause infertility. That's a myth. Your vaccines are very safe. They do not cause infertility. And for now, I remember in the beginning when the vaccines just came, we did even mention to the media houses that we do not have enough safety data on how vaccine will work in pregnant and breastfeeding women. So in the beginning, we said pregnant and breastfeeding women should not get the vaccine unless otherwise. But now the guidance is it's safe for them. We have enough information to say it's safe for pregnant and breastfeeding women. So those are being given. The other is COVID is just for adults. Children do not get COVID. Now I think we are very clear. We know children do get COVID. The difference is most children do not get severe infection. We do have kids that get severe infection and end up dying from COVID. Even here in Zambia, we've seen that. But a few of them have that. Hence, even when it came to vaccination, some people say, no, there is no vaccination for kids. We now have vaccination even for children. Certain vaccines like Pfizer have now been approved for children as young as 5 years going upwards.
Kalulushi, aspiring member of parliament in the August 12th general elections under the United Party for National Development UPND ticket, Kaleta Chikabala, has called on the government to engage local contractors and suppliers in the area to resolve the unfair awarding of contracts by the foreign firms. In an interview with Camnet TV, Mr. Chikabala says it is discouraging to see the Chinese contractors give contracts to their fellow Chinese and leave out the local qualified contractors, disregarding the 20% local contractors law. Mr. Chikabala notes that the acts portrayed by the Chinese contractors may be one of the contributing factors to lack of employment amongst Zambian youths because the resources evolve amongst the same people.
Cabinet and our president, the Republican President Akande Ichilema, so that we can assist the entrepreneurs within our district, especially Kalushi and Chambeshi. The issue whereby majority of these companies owned by foreigners, the Chinese mining industries, especially JCHX and NFC and them, the issue of them giving big contracts and orders to their fellow Chinese and leaving the Zambian non-contractors aside is not healthy, because when those contractors are paid, they are taking the money back to China and there is nothing that is being left in the society and in the community of our district.
This is Camnet TV Main News. We'll take a break. We'll be back with international and sports news.
This is the Rusitu irrigation project. It's a government project funded by the World Bank through IDSP.
The project involved laying over 18 kilometers worth of interlinked water pipes that will supply water to the 280 hectares land for small-scale and commercial farmers in Rusitu of Chirundu district. We worked on 35 kilometers of the road network and also constructed 159 concrete water hydrants of different sizes in all 3 tiers. The state-of-the-art water pumping station at the banks of the Zambezi is fitted with 9 water pumps, a dedicated concrete reservoir, a 500 kV automated standby generator, a fully automated pump switching system that is interlinked with a second reservoir of 27,000 cubic liters capacity, which is fitted with 7 water pumps, a standby generator and floater tanks for that extra water pressure on the irrigation lines. Savenda Construction is grateful to the Zambian government and the World Bank for giving us the opportunity to be part of the history of Rusitu, as the project will benefit over 282 households once completed and is just one of the many that Savenda Construction has embarked on, owing to its track record and capacity to deliver as per requirement. Savenda, save nations, develop Africa.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
Africa is rising to a new dawn of integrity and accountability. Are you tired of being swindled or buying fake or illegal properties? Would you like to sell or buy genuine property? Would you like to list your property on both local and international market? Don't waste your time. Call the professionals, the SGK Properties, on +260 762 166 018. SGK Properties. Your business assurance is our priority.
In international news, a fuel tanker has exploded following a collision in the capital of Sierra Leone, causing numerous casualties, the central morgue and local authorities said. The government has not yet confirmed the death toll, but the manager of the Central State Morgue in Freetown said it had received 91 bodies following the explosion on Friday. In other news, the UN Security Council has for the first time called for an end to the fighting in Ethiopia, but a meeting to discuss the crisis has been postponed until next week. Ethiopia's year-long conflict with rebels from the northern Tigray region has worsened recently, with the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front (TPLF) forces seizing key cities on a highway that leads towards the capital. Here's a roundup of international news.
At least 91 people have been killed and many others severely burned in a fire that followed a fuel tanker explosion in Sierra Leone's capital. So the blast happened after the tanker collided with another vehicle at a busy junction in the Wellington area of Freetown. The vice president has visited a hospital treating the injured. The number of dead is expected to rise. Omar Fofana is a journalist. He's joining us from Freetown in Sierra Leone, where I believe you're at the scene of that accident. Omar, tell us what you're seeing.
Yes, please. I'm right at the scene. You can see just behind me here the wreckage of the tanker into which a truck rammed last night. And the latest we have is that 97 charred bodies have been received at the central mortuary. That is according to the mortuary officials, and there are more than 100 people who are injured and admitted at various hospitals across the country. The health area has been stretched, with hospitals asking for everything that they need to be able to respond. Most of those more than 100 patients who are currently admitted are said by the country's Deputy Health Minister, Dr. Amara Jambai, to be critically injured. And it's a matter of time, he says, before the death toll rises. So, as you can see here right now, there are lots of people in the background here, people expressing concern and some people wailing.
Tell us more about how this actually happened.
Well, it was late yesterday evening, after rush hour, people heading home, must have been around 8 p.m. local time, when this tanker right behind me here, or the charred remains thereof, was rammed into by the truck, which you can also see just by the burnt out tanker there. So once it happened, there was some petrol leakage from the tank, and then some commercial motorbike taxi riders came and they started scooping the fuel from the truck, from the tanker rather. And then there was a traffic holdup in this area, so that when there was a fast ball that, more or less came out shortly afterwards, we don't yet know what caused the explosion. But once it happened, then those who were trapped in the traffic in their vehicles, the explosion hit them, the fireballs more or less snowballed the whole area. And many of those who died, or there were burns inside their vehicles. And a lot of others who died were the motorbike taxi riders who were scooping fuel from the tanker.
We expect, or there are reports, that there will be some sort of emergency response meeting later chaired by the country's vice president. What do we expect to happen there?
Yes, the country's president is at the climate summit in Scotland, so the vice president is acting, and there is an emergency response meeting which is scheduled to happen any moment from now, which will be chaired by that vice president. They're planning to prepare their response. The response so far has been very basic. You can see the police officers, the army, the prison services, the fire force are all here, organized by the Office for the Response Agency. But their response has been very basic. Those who responded last night to collect the bodies and send them to the mortuary this morning had to use basic plastic bags to cover their hands with. That is how far things have been stretched here in terms of the response. But we don't know what they will come up with once that emergency meeting happens later today.
Far from the fields of conflict, Ethiopian opposition groups gather in Washington, D.C. 9 groups sign an agreement to work together with the expressed intention of removing the Ethiopian government by negotiation or force.
Ethiopia has been doing this, has been carried out a systematic racism in the country, almost like apartheid in South Africa. But this is a time where we need to recognize every human being in the country.
The government has dismissed the alliance as a publicity stunt, but it comes at a time that armed forces from the majority Oromo group have joined Tigray rebels in advancing on the Ethiopian capital. After days of private discussion, the Ethiopian crisis was due to come under the spotlight in the Security Council. But at the last minute, the meeting was cancelled, the Security Council president reading out a statement.
The members of the Security Council expressed deep concern about the expansion and intensification of military clashes in northern Ethiopia. The members of the Security Council further expressed serious concern about the impact of the conflict on the humanitarian situation in Ethiopia, as well as the stability of the country and the wider region.
It's understood that this replaced a statement that Ireland and Kenya had been working on, which called directly for a cessation of hostilities, a phrase that Russia reportedly objected to. The role of Kenya is critical in assuaging African fears about Western intervention in Ethiopia.
A senior diplomat has told me there's broad consensus that the African Union, along with Ethiopia's neighbors, must take the lead in resolving the crisis. The prevailing view is that African problems require African solutions.
But now all will have to wait until next week to see what action, if any, the Security Council takes in support.
It's now time for sports news. In sports news, more than 60 qualified referees in Eastern Province are scheduled to benefit from the newly procured referee jerseys by the Football Association of Zambia, FAZ. Eastern Province Referees Coordinator Raphael Piri says the new jerseys are going to motivate football officials in effectively executing their duties. Zanis reports that speaking during the official launch of the Eastern Province Referees Jersey distribution held yesterday at David Kaunda Stadium, Piri said the referees had been waiting for the new attire for some time now. More in this report.
For football as a game to be greatly appreciated, the role played by the referees must be always noted. The Football Association of Zambia has launched the official distribution of referee jerseys in Eastern Province. Provincial Referees Coordinator Raphael Piri said the distribution of referee jerseys is a motivation for the match officials.
But it's a part of motivation to the referees. They have sent us a very strong signal so that by the end of the day, we shouldn't get worried about what am I going to put on tomorrow when I've been assigned for a game. So the assignment now has been left to the men in uniform, the referees themselves. So by doing so, they have shown really fatherly heart as an association to think of referees, because this is the first for its kind. Every time they are just looking at the levels of teams, but this time around they have extended their hands to the referees. So about 64 qualified referees, and the association demanded that each referee will get 2 sets of jerseys, and we have about 3 colors of jerseys. So meaning that out of the number which have received, when you multiply 64 by 228 jerseys, the whole province. So all the qualified referees, they're going to be dressed up.
Eastern Province Sports Development Officer Victoria Piri was present during the launch of the distribution.
Here to distribute the kits that we received from FAZ. As a ministry, we are very happy to have received this. We've been waiting for them for a very long time. We want to thank our president, the Republican president, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, being the patron for FAZ. We are so grateful that what we've been waiting for has now come, and it's such a privilege to have these things in the province.
And the Football Association of Zambia Eastern Province Executive Committee was represented by the Provincial Women Football Coordinator, Lilian Vegia.
It's a good gesture that they have shown to the referees in our province, and we have lifted the burden from them. Most of the games which they go and officiate, they go very far, and then when we look at the transport refunds, they go a long way whereby they spend a lot where they get less. So with this kind of motivation, we know that our referees will do better. Thank you.
Thank you. The Football Association of Zambia is targeting to grow the game of football in all rural parts of the country through the effective motivation of the referees. Sylvester Chimba for Zanis News in Chipata District, Eastern Province.
To end the news, we take a look at stories making headlines once again. ZESCO calls for cost-reflective tariffs amid increased power outages. President HH surrenders the power to appoint police commissioners. Government tasked to account for carbon tax. And in international news, at least 91 people have died and several injured after a fuel tanker blast in Sierra Leone capital. And in sports news, over 60 qualified referees in Eastern Province to benefit from the new referee jerseys. We'll now look at the Camnet verse for the day, coming from Matthew 24, verse 34 to 35, and it reads, I assure you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. Thank you for watching Camnet TV Main News. My name is Jeffrey Siambo. Bye-bye.